Hello friends, and happy Friday. Welcome to my bar, also known as my kitchen island, because when you're here at my house, this kitchen island is my bar. So what I'd like to do today is share with you a brief overview of my favorite spirit, and that is gin. At any given time, I probably have 20 to 25 different gins here in my house. Always good. So today, I'd like to talk about gin in this respect. I'd like to talk about the basics of gin making, talk about some of my go-to gins, which I have lined up here for you, talking about some of the basic mixers, which are on the other side here, that go well with gin, and then finish with some of my recommendations for what I think are gins that you may like as well. So, let's begin with the process of gin making. Gin making is really what I like to summarize as chemistry meeting botany. And so gin can be looked at as a distilled liquid that takes a neutral grain like wheat or barley, even rice in some cases, which you'll see later, and combines it with other botanicals and spices. And then those things come together at the end of the process to make gin what gin is. So along with the neutral grains, the botanicals that are included are juniper, and juniper tends to be the base of most gins. Juniper is what gives gin that gin flavor. As soon as you taste a gin, you know that's a gin. And I know some of you might not like it, but it's one that I've really come to like over the years. Along with juniper, it can include coriander, fennel, angelica, anise, caraway, rose petals, literally hundreds. So I'm not going to stand here for the next 5 minutes and list all the botanicals. Whenever you have one gin not tasting like another, and none of these taste the same, it's due to the different botanicals and also the neutral grain spirit that is used in the distillation process. So at the end of all that, you're going to come up with a spirit here that is going to be somewhere between 40% to 47% alcohol by volume. And if you read the bottle in terms of spirits, they generally list the proof. So these are going to run anywhere from 80 to about 94 proof. You can just cut that number in half if you don't see the ABV on the bottle to determine how much alcohol is in your drink at any given time. And again, the thing I always want to be careful about, please, because you're all my friends and I want you to be careful. When you're having gin, it's powerful. Think about that. The stronger gins are almost 50% alcohol, 50% ethanol, and that's very, very powerful. So always, please, be careful how much of that you have in your body at any one time. I need to put a little in my body right now. That's good. So, my go-to gins are the following. I have 6 of them here for you, and I'm going to run through these very, very quickly. The first one, and you can see it's the biggest bottle here on the table, is one from Philadelphia Distilling called Blue Coat. It's a wonderful gin, and if you just read the gin bottles, it'll tell you on the bottle what are generally, not always, they'll tell you what the basic botanicals are that were used in the distillation process. Sometimes they will even tell you what the neutral grain spirit was that was used. But most of the time it's just going to say a neutral grain spirit. So just think of grains, wheat, rice, barley, etc. And then, for example, on the back of this Blue Coat bottle, it mentions that this is a juniper forward gin and also uses a lot of citrus, orange peel, lemon peel, and I'm sure there's probably a little coriander in there, as that's also one of the basic botanicals that is used in gin distillation. The second one I want to share that's American. These first 2 are American. I have 2 from Spain and 2 from Scotland. I forgot to mention that. This is Aviation. You've probably seen this. This is made on the West Coast, readily available around the country from Portland, Oregon. And always, I love to smell these gins before I drink them. They are so aromatic and perfumed. And it's kind of the way I'm going to tell if I'm even going to like a gin before I drink it. I know it sounds kind of weird. I'd rather smell the gin first before I drink it. The next two are Spanish gins. One of my favorite gins from Spain is a gin called Gin Mare. This one, unfortunately, I know is not readily available. But the point that I wanted to make is, this one is infused, distilled. If you read the bottle, it tells you olives, thyme, rosemary, and basil. It smells like a salad, but the smell that, or it looks like a salad, the smell that comes out, if you were here and could smell this, you'd smell the green olives coming off of that. And then finally, there are two gins that I like from Scotland. One of these, I'm sure you recognize, is Hendrick's. And Hendrick's is known for being infused with cucumber and rose petals. And that is, my friends, the one I'm sipping here for you now. And the way I made this gin and tonic is the way it should always be made. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip to go at your bartender with. If you go out and get a Hendrick's and you want a Hendrick's and tonic and they put a lime in it, you need to tell them they made a mistake. I'd still drink it anyway, but it's much, much better with cucumber slices in it. It just gives it that clean, fresh, summery flavor. And the last gin, just to give you a tour around the world, is one called The Botanist. And the reason I picked this one out is if you ever get a chance in the store to look at the bottle, they have listed the 22 locally sourced in Scotland, botanicals that they use in this, along with juniper, coriander, and other of the basic gin spices. This one is a fantastic martini gin. I would actually say about all of these, the reason I picked these is they're good as martinis, they're good in gin and tonics, and they're good in any other gin concoctions that you might come across. That's not the case with all gins. Some gins don't mix well with certain things. These are very versatile gins, and I wanted you to know that. So now, what do you do with these gins? You really don't want to drink gin straight. It just, you can. I like it straight, but I do like it mixed better. So it's not really known as a sipper. So the basic mixers that you might want to mix with gin are tonic, Fever Tree being one of my favorites. You might want to use vermouth, any kind of vermouth if you're planning to make a martini. If you remember a couple segments ago, we did the Saint Germain Spritz. There's actually a recipe for a Saint Germain gin and tonic. Instead of putting in one of these other things, you pour a shot of oh, I need to clear my throat again. You can just pour this right in with it and you'll get that elderflower flavor in the gin and tonic. Fantastic summer gin and tonic. And then the other mixer, and there are many more you can use, one that I keep around here is a ginger liqueur called Domaine de Canton. It makes an excellent gin and tonic, and you could probably use it with any one of the gins that you have up here on the table. So to leave you with a couple recommendations as I have with the wine, if you're not a gin drinker and you want to get started, if you are a gin drinker and you haven't tried these, I have two specific recommendations. One American and one Scottish. And the American one, for me, is Blue Coat. I met Blue Coat in 2006. I went to an after dinner or an after work get together. Someone served me a gin and tonic. I didn't know what was in it, and I said, "Oh my God, what's in that glass?" And ever since then, Blue Coat has been in my house. And Hendrick's, just found Hendrick's along the way in my journeys and fell in love with Hendrick's as well because it makes such a refreshing gin and tonic. It'll make a good martini too. So those would be the two takeaways for you. They're readily available. I'm not even going to bother posting these afterwards. What I am going to post for you afterwards is a little blog that I found about more specifics about the gin making process, if you really want to get into more of the science and more of the nuances around how gin is made. But before I go, I want to give you a little reading recommendation. I haven't done this yet. I told you I had a wine library or a library about wine and spirits. This is a book called The Drunken Botanist, and it says on the cover, if you can't read it, "The Plants That Create the World's Great Drinks." It was a New York Times bestseller. If you want to learn some of the things that I've learned along the way, this is how I do it. I read, I sample, I try. I recommend that you do the same. So go out and find this book, The Drunken Botanist, And until next time, my friends, cheers.